Hello, everyone, and welcome back to FutureBuilt. I'm Matt Boney, your host, and I'm here today with Joe Bromovsky, who is the co-founder of Algoma. Algoma is an amazing platform. They're doing lots of things, super cool things around rendering, also around zoning. And we're going to dive into product and all the insights today. But Joe, thank you so much for joining us here on FutureBuilt.
Hey, Matt, thanks for having me.
Absolutely, man. Let's kick it off by just giving us the overview. What is Algoma? What are you guys building?
Yeah, so Algoma is an AI development platform for real estate developers. We help developers find new sites and then run feasibilities in a matter of minutes on those sites. We then also offer other architectural and tech-enabled services to take those sites all the way to construction.
It's amazing. It's amazing. And I think, we first connected when I was looking at the infinite spa use case, where we talked about renders, where we talked about zoning. But I love this vision of literally end to end being able to take a developer from concept to starting construction in one platform. That sounds like something that's super needed in the industry. Where are you guys finding the most traction today? What kind of customers do you guys typically have?
Yeah, we have a broad range of customers across the US, but certainly probably our biggest sector are home builders. Especially large scale national home builders who are building kind of larger communities. It's one of the trickiest developments to get right. There's so many factors that go into creating one of those site plans. You've got to take into account things like the base zoning, but then there's also flood zones and gradients and soil risk, and then you've got to lay out your whole site, and you want to try different product types. There's so many different things that go into it. That make it so complex. We found that's like a key customer group for us.
Interesting. And is this mostly US based? I mean, you probably have to train your AI models on lots of different codes and regulations, but is it mostly US?
Right now, we're focusing on the US. I mean, just within the US, you've got a 3.8 million housing shortage. So that's just within the US, and against that 3.4 million shortage, US building about 1.4 million units each year, and that is just not keeping up with the demand. And part of the reason there is that costs and time have just spiraled within pre-construction. If you look at pre-constructions, they've gone up about 75% over the 4 or 5 years. So it's just making it harder and harder for these projects to pencil. So yeah, right now we just focus on the US and the residential market because there's just a huge opportunity to go after.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Do you find, I mean, this is probably a statistic that's out there for anyone to go find, but what sort of housing is there demand for that there's a shortage of at this point?
Yeah, I mean, I think that always the biggest demand is entry level affordable housing, right? That first home, that starter home, that's always the place that it's the hardest to stack up, but it's the one that people need the most. Um, People are looking for that entry level product that works for the consumer, gives you a lovely, amazing home, but also works for the developer and the builder, and they can get their return. So, fixing that point, I think, is the key challenge for everyone in this industry.
Yeah, I believe it. I mean, it's definitely something that we see here in South Florida, especially with the prices going up day after day. Sometimes coming down a tiny bit, but generally in that range
Yeah,
of people struggling to find a way to get a first
right.
home. Walk us through a
And
little bit.
there's
Well, go ahead.
And there's pressure from every part of the process, right? You've got material prices going up, labor prices going up, labor shortages, more and more complex regulation and approval process. You're seeing pressure every part of the process, and that's what makes it so difficult to get right.
Yeah, I know it's crazy, and I think there are a lot of companies obviously trying to tackle this. I love that you guys are focused on that pre-development or pre construction process because I feel like it's one that has so many facets. Um, And you guys seem like the team to tackle this. Talk to me a little bit about your background and your co-founder's background. What got you guys inspired to start Algoma?
Yeah, sure. So, I've worked within the construction and engineering career my whole life. Started as a civil engineer and then worked for a technology group that was building machine learning and software solutions specifically for the construction engineering industry. And then I'm from the UK originally and moved to the US about 5 years ago to study. And then, yeah, we launched Algoma 2 years ago. And I have two co-founders. Saif, who's our COO, comes from management consulting background, brings that kind of operational excellence. And Kyle, who's our chief product officer, amazing architect, has won uh, a number of international design awards. And, we really came together around kind of a shared passion and experience. All of us having some experience of construction and engineering and kind of encountering a lot of the frustrations that everyone feels around just how difficult and slow it can be and how big opportunity there is for technology, not to displace people, but just to provide better tools and create huge efficiencies around the whole process that we move through.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And I like that caveat because I think this is a process that a lot of people work on. Some of these tools are making it easier, faster, enhancing people's ability to do their work in a more timely fashion. But what do you think about that? I mean, this contrast of like AI, not to go too far off topic, but AI, job replacement versus job enhancement. What do you think about
Yeah.
that? Yeah.
I mean, we're definitely more in the job enhancement category. I think um, AI is amazing at tasks, right? Like it can do an incredible job at tasks. And it really lowers the cost of analysis. So rather than looking at one scenario for a site that's taken 3, 4 weeks to put together, you can look at 100 different scenarios for a site and find the best one that fits. It allows you to just do so much more basically as an individual. I don't think it's a replacement for a person or an employee, but it can supercharge what a single person can do.
Yeah. Yeah. And part of the process, like you'd mentioned, that you guys are working on it's site selection itself, right? It's you guys are actually helping with the analysis of site selection.
Exactly. Yeah. So you can use the Algoma platform to find new sites based on criteria. So you can search particular geography or area, and you can search, between from like 30 or 40 different criteria, whether that's the underlying zoning code, the size of the lot, what you're trying to build there. You can put it in and find essentially new opportunities to build because um, that is just a super time consuming process to try and find a site that works um, with all of the criteria that can go into that or can rule out a site is just a time consuming process. So we're just offering a solution for land acquisition teams to be able to find new opportunities, find new sites that could work for the type of product and the type of market that they're going after.
Amazing. And is it all for new builds, or is it also working on like could I analyze a property that's says already has maybe a multifamily development on it? Maybe I want to reposition that asset. Does it work with that too?
Yeah, you definitely can use it to find information on an existing asset. So, you can search any parcel in the US and it will give you things like ownership information, site information, general context, give you the zoning, so you can use that if you're doing it. But I would say the the site capacity feature, which is the actual like create a site plan or create a massing of your building, that's really focused towards new construction right now, or at least demolishing what's on there and starting a new project from scratch.
Which obviously we in the modular space find this. I mean, I find this super interesting. I think a number of other colleagues of mine that are in this space find it interesting to be able to analyze properties super quickly, understand their use. And you just mentioned before we jumped on today, so you guys are working on a new feature kind of surrounding potentially modular implementation. Is that right?
Yeah, so we just launched AI zoning feature where you can ask any question of the zoning code. So things like ADUs or maybe like modular add-ons, you can just ask our AI zoning chat. Does it work in this location? It'll go through the underlying zoning code, kind of give you an answer that's specific to what you're trying to do, rather than a general answer. You can really make it specific for what they're trying to do, because there's the sites that work, but you spend as much time often on the sites that aren't going to work, when you're doing this manually, where you can waste weeks and weeks of work on something that's never going to work. So part of our value proposition to developers and home builders is also the ability to say no to opportunities much faster than they would normally, and to reduce that amount of wasted time.
That makes a ton of sense. And to the point of enhancing someone's ability to do their job faster, analyze more properties, get better results. Like it sounds like this tool is really empowering sort of that analyst role. Um, Talk to us about, I mean, this sounds like almost like a cure all for this pre development process, which maybe it is. What's still challenging about building this? Assuming there is
Yeah,
something.
yeah, I mean, there's challenges every day. Um, one of the big next things we want to solve is construction costs. I think for a lot of people, construction costs is this sort of black box, where you're trying to ring someone up to get like a high level estimate, or you're going off a project that you worked on maybe like 6, 8 months ago, but it really is not giving you up to date and specific enough data that you can really make decisions that matter. Like, okay, I'm going to build this building. Should I use, light frame wood? Should I use concrete? Should I use steel? What's the price right now today? And what's the difference? And these are decisions you can make at the start of the project, but only if you have really good data. And that is just like difficult for everyone, I think, right now. And so that's something we're thinking really hard about, and thinking like how we can offer like a really good solution there.
Absolutely. Coming from the software space myself in a previous life, I was always kind of interested in the dynamic between incumbents in the space and startups. Um, this was kind of proliferation of ChatGPT and LLMs, just in general AI. So, how has that dynamic been between you and existing players, and are they trying to enter this space? Like, how do you manage that, especially with this advent of AI um, in the last?
Yeah, I mean, I think whether you're an incumbent or a startup, in a way, everyone's kind of facing this totally new world right now, where it's like every week something is changing, something new is coming out. You're staying on top of it. You're seeing, like, okay, how could we use this, or how could we build on top of it, or how does this change what we currently offer? And it just feels like the pace of acceleration has gone up about 20 times a couple of years ago, because of AI, and because how focused in everyone is, and because of the amazing things that are coming out like every week. And so um I think kind of the challenges are the same. It's like, how quickly can you adopt some of this new technology? How can you leverage it? How can you build on top of it? How can you build your own technology to complement it? And whether you're an incumbent or a startup, or some mid-tier, you're all kind of facing this challenge. And I think the companies that will be the most successful are the ones who can adapt the quickest, and are the ones that can kind of really build tools that are not just flashy, but genuinely solve customer problems reliably every single time, with a high degree of trust.
Absolutely. Uh, just on a podcast the other day, I heard the phrase "doing common things uncommonly well." That kind of
Right.
resonated with me, but that's
Yeah, I
kind of
like
what
that.
it sounds like.
Yeah.
With
Yeah.
all the things you can do with AI, why not take one part of the process, focus on doing it super well, do it reliably. Obviously, it sounds like that's what you guys are really building towards. Does the ambition span ever beyond a software play for you guys? Just now having all this data and all these tools, has it ever occurred like, hey, could we be our own sort of development entity too, or is it all just software?
Yeah, I don't think we want to be a developer ourselves. We really just want to be the provider to developers, and there's a huge amount of expansion to allow us to go from just like feasibility into deeper into the process, into pre-construction, into approvals. Um, but we really want to be the support act to the developers rather than develop ourselves and provide solutions, throughout their journey and throughout their projects. Um, but kind of go deeper into that process with them. I think that's where we're going to expand rather than being the developer ourselves.
That makes sense. Definitely. And are there customers? I mean, you guys are not in the full beta anymore. You have some case studies and things that you guys are working on.
Yeah, we're working with a whole range of customers. Our biggest kind of grouping, I guess, is in the southeast, as you would expect, because that's where a significant amount of the residential construction happens. But like Florida, Georgia, um, North Carolina is our kind of biggest concentration of customers, and we're working with a whole range there, and kind of in the process of building up a whole grouping of case studies that we're going to be releasing to show the value that we've given to them around speed, being able to deliver their projects faster, and cost, really saving cost, and finally like optimizing their yield. So, i.e., maximizing the revenue they're gaining on every single site that they do.
Yeah, that's super interesting. Is there one part of the tool or platform that seems to be adding the most value, or that customers are the most excited about, or is it kind of the whole thing together?
Yeah, I'll give you like two. One is our zoning feature that allows you to immediately understand the zoning and also ask any zoning question on it. And the second one is our site capacity tool. So here you can take any parcel in the US and automatically generate like a site plan. So you know exactly the capacity of that particular site. And if you're doing that the manual way, that can be 3-4 weeks work for one option. And you can do that in a matter of minutes in the platform. So I think those are the two key areas that we get the best kind of feedback on, or where we think we're offering the most value.
Amazing, amazing. And you guys are based in New York. The whole team is up there right now, if I'm not mistaken. Um,
Exactly. Yeah, we're based in Brooklyn. Yeah.
and and you all co-founders all met at Harvard, or that was
Yes.
really
Yeah.
all
We
cool.
all
You guys.
we all met at Harvard. Say for myself with doing an MBA there, and Kyle was doing a real estate master's there, and so um, we actually all met kind of doing kind of classes in real estate there, basically, which was how we all met originally. And um, you know, it was a great opportunity doing a postgraduate course because you have time to really think and plan, and we all used that kind of final year to essentially plan Algoma's future and to begin that process of like speaking to customers and working with them, and that was like very valuable for us.
Awesome. Yeah, I always love to highlight either the MBA or undergrad, just because I mean people question starting to question a lot like higher education in general. And I think it's still, this is a case study of you can go there, you can meet awesome co-founders, you can come up with product ideas, which I think is a super interesting part of the process. And to know that you guys were actually doing customer interviews and stuff as part of, sounds like almost as part of coursework or something like that, like is super
Yeah.
cool. What
Yeah, coursework, free time, it just gives you that ability to really think, maybe slightly less of that time pressure where you can, as you say, you can just talk to people with no agenda, understand, the problems that they're facing. Um, you kind of have whatever you want to call it, a brand maybe that opens doors as well. Like being a student, being assigned with a particular university, you can reach out to an alumni network, you can talk to people. You have that way of, people are just more open to having a conversation with you, opening that door, and tend to be, pretty open in answering questions that you have, and I think that can be really helpful in planning any business idea, business company. You really understand like the workflow and the problems that people are facing.
I agree. I agree. No, that's awesome. And I love to see ventures continue on beyond just, an idea that you guys maybe talked about at school. It's like, okay, now we're years into this. You've raised funding. You're in New York. You have customers. Like, it's a real, this is a real company, obviously. Um, but just super cool that you guys have been able to get to where you are in such a short period of time as well. Talk to me just for a little bit, because I know we got to wrap up here. But talk to me about the future of Algoma. What are you guys excited about? And then how people should reach out to you if they want to get involved, become customers, etc.
Yeah, I mean, we are right now just super excited about working with more developers and helping them with their projects. The thing that excites us most is when we talk to a customer and they said, "You've saved us so much money and time on a particular project or a development." That's why we started Algoma. Is really to impact the housing market in the US and bring down costs. So that's always the thing that excites us the most. If anyone's listening is interested in learning more, um, they can email me directly at joe@algoma.co at the end. They can go to our website and sign up directly there, and they can follow us on LinkedIn, and get all of the updates there. We post pretty regularly. So whatever people want, please feel free to reach out, and would love to give a demo and speak more.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I'll be sure to link all the links and all that good stuff in the episode. But yeah, I highly recommend anybody listening to this to check it out. Algoma is awesome. They're helping lots of developers um, make this process of pre-development simpler, faster, and bringing that to market across the United States. So, Joe, thank you so much for jumping on, man. This has been great. I hope we have another catch up here soon. We can do a longer, a longer chat next time as well. But super stoked for you guys. Thank you for jumping on, and let's keep in touch.
Awesome. Thanks, Matt. Really appreciate it.
Of course. Thanks everyone for joining another episode of Future Built. I'm Matt Boney. This has been Joe from Algoma.